You talk too much about what you're going to do. You announce your plans before they're bulletproof. You seek approval for dreams that should be forged in the furnace of your own determination. And somewhere deep inside, you know this compulsive need to explain yourself is draining the very power you need to succeed. Every word you speak about your intentions is energy that should be flowing into action. Every explanation you give is conviction leaking out through cracks in your resolve. You've been conditioned to believe that visibility equals validity, that noise equals strength, that constant updates equal progress. But the masters of achievement know a different truth. What if I told you that your greatest competitive advantage isn't your ability to communicate your vision, but your capacity to disappear into it? What if the very silence you fear is actually the sanctuary where legends are born? This isn't about becoming antisocial or secretive. This is about understanding that true power doesn't announce itself. It accumulates in the quiet hours when others are sleeping. It compounds in the invisible moments when others are performing. It crystallizes in the sacred space between intention and manifestation where only you and your purpose exist. You're about to discover why Edison worked in obscurity before he lit up the world, why Disney drew in silence before he built an empire of imagination, why every giant you admire spent years building in the shadows before stepping into the spotlight they never actually sought. The transformation waiting for you isn't just about changing what you do. It's about changing who you are. From someone who seeks permission to someone who takes dominion. From someone who explains to someone who demonstrates. From someone who hopes to be seen to someone who becomes undeniable. This knowledge has been guarded by those who understand that power shared carelessly is power diminished. But today, if you're ready to trade your need for applause for the satisfaction of unstoppable momentum, then this message has found its way to exactly the right person. If this resonates with something you've always known but never fully embraced, then subscribe now. Because what follows will challenge everything you believe about strength, success, and the price of true achievement. And once you see it, there will be no going back to the noise. Number 1. Silence as a strategy of power. You feel it, don't you? That gnawing urge to announce every breakthrough, every plan, every small victory before it's even proven itself in the crucible of reality. You post, you share, you speak because somewhere deep inside you've been conditioned to believe that if it's not witnessed, it doesn't matter. But what if this very need for validation is the chain that keeps you from true power? In a world drunk on noise, where every thought becomes a tweet and every intention becomes an announcement, true power has learned to move differently. It doesn't shout, it doesn't explain. It doesn't beg for recognition. It simply is, and in that being it commands a presence that no amount of words could ever create. Consider the lion in the wild. Does it roar to convince the savannah that it is king? Does it gather the other animals to vote on its authority? No. The lion moves with quiet certainty, and everything in its path responds not to its voice, but to its undeniable presence. The gazelle doesn't run because the lion announced its hunger. It runs because it feels the power that needs no introduction. This is the secret that the masters of achievement have always known. While the masses chase the spotlight, the giants build in the shadows. Thomas Edison didn't hold press conferences about his experiments. He disappeared into his laboratory, failed in darkness, tried again in silence, and emerged only when he had captured lightning in a bottle. The world knew his name not because he spoke about electricity, but because he illuminated it. The shift begins the moment you understand that your energy is finite and sacred. Every word spent explaining is power diverted from creating. Every moment seeking approval is a moment stolen from the work that will make approval irrelevant. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to become undeniable by anyone. Stop asking permission. Stop explaining your vision to people who lack the imagination to see it. Start moving with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that results speak in languages that words never could. Let your actions echo so loudly that your silence becomes deafening. When you have truly arrived, when your work has reached the heights you always knew it could, the world will ask how you did it. And you'll smile, knowing that the secret was never in the speaking. It was in the sacred act of shutting up and showing up day after day until showing up became showing the world what impossible looks like when it's been touched by unshakable purpose. Number 2, the trap of talking before doing. You've done it again, haven't you? Shared that dream before it had time to take root. Spoken about that business idea before you'd written the first page of the plan. Announced that transformation before you'd missed the first meal or completed the first workout, and somewhere in the aftermath of that conversation, you felt it drain away. That electric energy that once pulsed through your vision suddenly felt diluted. This is not coincidence. This is the cruelest trap that ambition can fall into. Every time you speak about your dream before acting on it, you commit an act of sabotage so subtle that you don't even realize you're bleeding out your own power. Your mind, fooled by the satisfaction of speaking, begins to treat the conversation as partial completion. The dopamine hit of sharing tricks your brain into thinking progress has been made when not a single meaningful step has been taken. Picture your dream as a flame in the darkness. When it's small, when it's just beginning to catch, even the gentlest wind can extinguish it. But when you shield that flame, when you protect it from the drafts of doubt and the gusts of other people's limited thinking, it grows, it roars, it becomes a fire that no storm can touch. Your silence in the early stages is not hiding. It's protecting the most precious thing you possess until it's strong enough to withstand the world. There once was a sculptor who worked for 20 years on a single piece. People would pass his workshop and ask what he was creating. His answer was always the same: "I'll show you when it's finished." They mocked him. They called him secretive, obsessive, maybe even mad. But on the day he unveiled his masterpiece, the very people who had ridiculed his silence stood in stunned reverence. The statue didn't just capture marble. It captured the impossible made tangible through 2 decades of protected, purposeful silence. The transformation you seek requires this same fierce protection. Stop treating your goals like entertainment for others. Stop seeking validation for dreams that should be validated only by their completion. Every person you tell becomes a stakeholder in your vision, and most stakeholders lack the stomach for the price that greatness demands. Here's what you must understand. The moment you trade sharing for doing, you become dangerous. Dangerous to mediocrity. Dangerous to the status quo. Dangerous to everyone who gave up on their own dreams and secretly hopes you'll give up on yours too. Protect your vision with the ferocity of a parent protecting their child, because that's exactly what it is. Your dreams don't need witnesses in their infancy. They need warriors. And warriors know that the most devastating attacks are the ones nobody sees coming until they've already changed everything. Number 3, clarity as the foundation of the silent path. Listen to yourself. Speak for just one day. Count how many times you explain, justify, or elaborate on things that should be simple. Notice how often you circle back to the same points, searching for the words that will finally make others understand what you're not even sure you understand yourself. This compulsive need to explain is not communication. It's confusion dressed up as conversation. People who talk constantly are usually people who think constantly. And people who think constantly are usually people who lack the clarity to act decisively. They speak because they're searching. They explain because they're uncertain. They justify because deep down they're trying to convince themselves as much as they're trying to convince others. But clarity changes everything. When you know exactly where you're going, you don't need to describe the journey to every person you meet along the way. When your purpose burns clear and bright within you, you stop seeking external validation for what you already know to be true. Clarity is like a laser beam cutting through darkness. It doesn't announce itself. It simply cuts clean and true, leaving no doubt about its path or its power. There's a reason why the most successful people you know speak less about their work and more through their work. Their path is so clear to them that they'd rather spend time walking it than drawing maps for people who aren't ready to make the journey. They've learned that clarity is not something you share, it's something you live. The moment you stop explaining yourself to others is the moment you start becoming yourself. This is not arrogance, this is not dismissiveness. This is the natural result of knowing your direction so completely that you no longer need external confirmation that you're heading the right way. Fire doesn't explain why it burns. Water doesn't justify why it flows. They simply express their nature completely and without apology. Your transformation begins with this brutal honesty. If you're talking about it more than you're doing it, you don't yet have clarity. If you need to convince others, you haven't yet convinced yourself. If you're seeking permission, you haven't yet given yourself the only permission that matters. True clarity eliminates the need for explanation because it eliminates the space where doubt could live. Stop talking your dreams to death. Stop explaining your vision until it becomes a ghost of its former power. Get clear, get moving, and let your silence become the most powerful statement you've ever made. When clarity becomes your compass, action becomes your language, and results become your signature, you'll discover that the world doesn't need to understand your methods. It only needs to witness your miracles. Number 4, conviction, the fire that burns in silence. Deep within you, beneath all the noise and doubt and second-guessing, there's a voice that never wavers. It doesn't shout, it doesn't argue, it doesn't even speak very often. But when it does, it says only one thing. This is the way. Keep going. That voice is your conviction, and it's the most powerful force you'll ever possess. The tragedy is that most people spend their entire lives drowning it out with the chatter of uncertainty. Conviction is not loud, it doesn't need to be. It's the quiet whisper that repeats endlessly in the darkest hours. I will not quit, I will not break. I will not compromise what I know to be true. While others are shouting their beliefs from mountaintops, hoping the volume will convince the world of their certainty, true conviction moves like deep water, silent on the surface, but carrying the power to reshape everything in its path. Think of Abraham Lincoln during the darkest days of his presidency. The nation was tearing itself apart. Critics called him weak, incompetent, unfit to lead. The pressure to abandon his principles was crushing. But Lincoln never defended himself with speeches about his conviction. He defended his conviction through action. He didn't explain why slavery was wrong. He simply held the line against it day after day, decision after decision, until his quiet certainty outlasted every voice of opposition. This is what conviction looks like when it's real. It stops defending and starts becoming. It stops explaining and starts expressing. Your life becomes your argument. Your consistency becomes your message. Your unwavering commitment to what you know is right becomes the most powerful sermon you could ever deliver, and you never have to say a word. The shift happens when you realize that conviction doesn't come from what others believe about you. It comes from what you know about yourself. It's not built in moments of triumph. It's forged in moments of testing, when everything around you says to quit, to compromise, to take the easier path, and something unbreakable within you says no. Stop trying to convince others of what you believe. Start living it so completely that your life becomes undeniable proof of its power. Stop defending your choices to people who will never understand them. Start making choices that need no defense because their rightness becomes obvious in their outcomes. Conviction is not something you possess, it's something you become. It's not something you speak, it's something you are. And when you are conviction embodied, when your very presence carries the weight of unshakable certainty, you discover that the world stops questioning your path and starts following it. Let your conviction burn quietly, steadily, eternally. Let it light your way without blinding others. Let it fuel your journey without announcing your destination. Because conviction that must be explained has not yet been proven, but conviction that is lived becomes a lighthouse for every soul lost in the darkness of doubt. Number 5, invisible discipline, the power behind the curtain. At 4:30 in the morning while the world sleeps, there's someone running in the dark. No cameras, no cheering crowds, no social media posts about dedication. Just footsteps and breath and the quiet conversation between what they want to become and what they're willing to sacrifice to get there. This is where legends are forged. Not in the spotlight, but in the sacred space where no one is watching and nothing matters except the promise you made to yourself. Real discipline is not glamorous. It's not inspirational quotes on pristine gym walls or perfectly curated morning routines shared for likes. Real discipline is showing up when you don't feel like it. It's choosing the harder path when the easier one beckons. It's saying no to immediate pleasure for the sake of long-term power. It's the unglamorous, repetitive, often boring work that separates dreamers from achievers. You see the Olympic champion on the podium, but you didn't see the 10,000 training sessions that happened before dawn. You see the successful entrepreneur cutting the ribbon on their new headquarters, but you didn't see the years of 18-hour days, eating cold pizza over spreadsheets, making decisions that no one understood. You see the artist's masterpiece hanging in the gallery, but you didn't see the countless sketches crumpled and thrown away, the failures that taught more than any success ever could. This is the invisible discipline that builds empires. It doesn't wait for motivation because it understands that motivation is a fair-weather friend. It doesn't need applause because it's anchored in something deeper than external validation. It doesn't require perfect conditions because it has learned to thrive in the mess and chaos of real life. It simply shows up every single day like a faithful friend who never breaks a promise. The transformation you're seeking will not happen in the moments when you feel inspired. It will happen in the moments when you feel nothing at all and you do the work anyway. It will happen when your body says stop and your mind says quit and your spirit says yes. It will happen in the space between who you were and who you're becoming, where discipline is the only bridge strong enough to carry you across. Stop waiting for the perfect moment to begin. Stop looking for the magic formula that will make discipline easy. Start embracing the truth that your greatest strength lies not in your ability to feel motivated, but in your capacity to act despite how you feel. This is not just about building better habits. This is about building a better you. When your discipline becomes invisible to others but visible to you in every fiber of your being, when your daily actions align so completely with your deepest values that consistency becomes your character, you'll discover something remarkable. Results don't just appear, they avalanche. Silent, massive, and too powerful for anyone to stop. Your discipline in the dark will become your light in the world. Guard it, honor it, live it, because everything you want is waiting on the other side of the person you're willing to become when no one else is watching. Number 6, purpose, the engine that makes silence sacred. There's a difference between the person who stays quiet because they're afraid to speak and the person who stays quiet because they have something more important to do than talk. One silence comes from emptiness. The other comes from overflow. One is born of fear, the other is born of focus. The difference between them is purpose, and purpose changes everything. Without purpose, your silence is hollow. It's avoidance masquerading as strategy, fear dressed up as wisdom. You stay quiet not because you're building something greater, but because you're hiding from something difficult. But when purpose fills your silence, when your quiet hours are pregnant with intention and direction, when your unexpressed words are because you're too busy expressing yourself through action, then silence becomes sacred. It becomes a sanctuary where miracles are conceived. Purpose is the engine that transforms every mundane moment into an investment in eternity. It takes your invisible hours and makes them invaluable. It takes your unwitnessed efforts and makes them eternal. When you know why you're here, really know it in your bones and blood and breath, you stop needing applause for validation because you're validated by something infinitely more powerful. The knowledge that your life has meaning beyond measure. Watch what happens when purpose takes hold of a human being. They stop explaining themselves because their work speaks louder than words ever could. They stop seeking recognition because they're driven by contribution. They stop chasing fame because they're chasing something that will outlast any spotlight, the chance to leave this world better than they found it. This is not about grand gestures or world-changing declarations. Purpose can be as simple as raising children who will raise better children, or mastering a craft so completely that it elevates everyone who encounters it. Purpose can be solving one problem so thoroughly that thousands of other problems become easier. It can be loving one person so deeply that they remember what it feels like to be truly seen. The shift happens when you stop asking what the world can give you and start asking what you can give the world. When you stop measuring your worth by what you receive and start measuring it by what you contribute. When you stop trying to be important and start doing something important instead. Your purpose may not make sense to everyone. It may not be understood by your family, your friends, or your contemporaries. But that's not your concern. Your concern is living it so completely that understanding becomes irrelevant. Your concern is expressing it so authentically that it becomes undeniable. Stop waiting for permission to live purposefully. Stop looking for someone to validate your mission. Stop seeking approval for the calling that keeps you awake at night and wakes you up before dawn. Your purpose doesn't need witnesses. It needs you. When purpose becomes your compass, when it guides every decision and directs every action, when it turns your silence into strategy and your patience into power, you'll discover that you don't need to announce your importance. Your importance announces itself through the impact you leave in every life you touch and every problem you solve. This is how ordinary people become extraordinary. Not by making noise about their purpose, but by making their purpose so loud through their actions that the noise becomes unnecessary. Number 7, resilience. The ultimate test of quiet power. Anyone can be silent when they're winning. Anyone can stay composed when the world is applauding. Anyone can maintain their dignity when everything is going according to plan. But what happens when the plan falls apart? What happens when the applause stops? What happens when the world turns its back and walks away? This is where true power reveals itself. Not in the easy moments, but in the moments that would break anyone else. You will be betrayed by people you trusted. You will be abandoned by those you helped. You will be misunderstood by those you love. You will face moments when every rational voice tells you to quit, to give in, to accept that maybe you were wrong about everything. These are not obstacles to your power. These are the forges where your power is born. Real resilience is not about bouncing back quickly. It's about continuing to move forward when bouncing back seems impossible. It's about showing up tomorrow when today has shown you nothing but reasons to quit. It's about maintaining your silence not because nothing hurts, but because you understand that your pain is temporary, but your purpose is permanent. Consider the man who spent 27 years in silence, not by choice but by force. Imprisoned for his beliefs, separated from his family, watching the world change from behind bars while his contemporaries lived full lives in freedom. Nelson Mandela could have spent those decades in bitterness. He could have emerged broken, angry, ready to exact revenge on those who stole the best years of his life. Instead, he used that silence to deepen his wisdom, to strengthen his resolve, to become not just a survivor but a healer. When he finally walked free, he didn't speak of vengeance. He spoke of forgiveness. He didn't demonstrate his power through anger. He demonstrated it through grace. His quiet strength had been tested in the harshest crucible imaginable, and it had not just survived, it had transformed him into something greater than he ever could have become without the testing. This is what resilience really looks like. It's not the absence of pain, it's the presence of purpose so strong that pain becomes a teacher rather than a master. It's not avoiding the storms. It's learning to dance in the rain while keeping your eyes fixed on the horizon where the sun will rise again. Your setbacks are not sidelines, they're stepping stones. Your failures are not endpoints, they're education. Your pain is not punishment. It's preparation for a strength you never knew you possessed. Every time you choose to continue when continuation seems impossible, you're not just surviving, you're evolving. Stop looking for easy paths. Start embracing difficult ones, knowing that difficulty is the price of distinction. Stop avoiding challenges. Start seeking them, understanding that every challenge overcome makes you more unbreakable. Stop fearing failure. Start learning from it, knowing that every lesson learned in darkness prepares you to shine brighter in the light. When the world sees you next, when your silence finally gives way to success that cannot be ignored, they'll ask how you survived what would have destroyed them. And you'll smile, knowing that survival was never the goal, transformation was. And transformation only happens in the crucible of difficulty where the old you dies and the unstoppable you is born. Number 8, action, the bridge between intention and destiny. Silence without movement is just sophisticated procrastination. Purpose without action is just beautiful dreaming. Clarity without execution is just expensive therapy. You can think clearly, speak wisely, and plan perfectly, but until you move, until you take that first step and then the second and then the 1,000th, you're still exactly where you started. Action is the bridge between the life you're living and the life you're meant to live. But here's what most people don't understand about action. The most powerful action is often the most invisible. It's not the grand gestures that change everything. It's the daily disciplines. It's not the dramatic moments that build empires. It's the mundane repetitions that no one sees and fewer people celebrate. It's showing up when showing up is hard. It's doing the work when the work feels meaningless. It's moving forward when you can't see the destination. Every great achievement is the result of countless small actions that seemed insignificant at the time. Every masterpiece started with a single brushstroke. Every fortune began with a single transaction. Every transformation started with a single choice to do something different today than yesterday. The magnificent things you admire in others were built one invisible action at a time, in moments when no one was watching and nothing seemed to matter. This is why the achievers you respect never seem to struggle with motivation. It's not because they feel motivated more often than you do. It's because they've learned to act regardless of how they feel. They've discovered that action creates motivation, not the other way around. They've understood that consistency is more valuable than intensity, that showing up imperfectly is infinitely more powerful than waiting for perfect conditions. The shift occurs when you stop treating action like an event and start treating it like an identity. You're not someone who exercises sometimes, you're someone who exercises. You're not someone who works on their dreams when they feel like it. You're someone who works on their dreams. You're not someone who takes action when it's convenient. You're someone who takes action, period. Start where you are. Start with what you have. Start imperfectly, inadequately, insufficiently. Start scared. Start uncertain. Start overwhelmed. But start. Because starting badly is infinitely better than not starting at all, and momentum has a way of solving problems that planning never could. Your invisible actions today are laying the foundation for your undeniable results tomorrow. Every hour you invest when no one is watching is equity in a future that will speak for itself. Every repetition in the darkness is preparing you for opportunities in the light. Every small action taken consistently compounds into forces that reshape everything they touch. Stop waiting for permission to begin. Stop looking for guarantees before you move. Stop seeking perfect conditions for imperfect people. Start moving with obsession and intention, knowing that by the time the world finally notices what you've built in silence, you'll already be so far ahead that catching up will be impossible. Action is not just what you do. Action is who you become. And who you become through daily, deliberate, silent action is someone the world has no choice but to respect, follow, and remember long after you're gone. Number 9, gratitude, the inner armor of the silent warrior. The world will try to make you bitter. It will give you reasons to complain, excuses to quit, justifications for anger. It will show you unfairness and call it normal. It will present you with betrayal and call it inevitable. It will offer you disappointment and suggest you should expect less. But there's a secret weapon that the truly powerful carry, one that transforms every attack into armor, every setback into strength. That weapon is gratitude. And it's not what most people think it is. Gratitude is not softness. It's not naive optimism or blind positivity. It's not pretending that pain doesn't hurt or that injustice doesn't exist. True gratitude is the emotional shield that protects you from the poisons that destroy other people. Bitterness, resentment, entitlement, and the victim mentality that turns potential into paralysis. It's the choice to find value in what others see as worthless, to extract wisdom from what others experience as waste. When you learn to be grateful for the pain, you rob it of its power to break you. When you learn to be grateful for the waiting, you transform patience from torture into strength. When you learn to be grateful for the solitude, you turn isolation into incubation, where the person you're becoming can grow without interference. This is not about enjoying suffering. This is about understanding that suffering is often the price of significance, and significance is worth any price. The silent warrior knows something that the loud and desperate do not. Every hardship is a teacher, every setback is a setup, every closed door is redirection toward an open one. They don't waste energy fighting what is. They invest energy extracting what can be learned, what can be gained, what can be used to build something better than what they lost. This transformation of perspective is what makes you magnetic. People are drawn to those who radiate quiet strength, who carry themselves with the confidence of someone who has been tested and emerged not just intact but improved. They sense that you possess something they lack, the ability to remain steady in chaos, peaceful in pressure, grateful in circumstances that would embitter anyone else. Gratitude reframes everything. The rejection that felt like failure becomes the redirection that led to something better. The loss that seemed devastating becomes the lesson that prepared you for greater gain. The betrayal that broke your heart becomes the wisdom that protected your future. When you see clearly, when you see completely, when you see with grateful eyes, you understand that nothing was wasted and everything served a purpose. Start practicing this sacred discipline. Thank the obstacles for making you stronger. Thank the delays for making you patient. Thank the criticism for making you better. Thank the loneliness for making you self-reliant. Thank the setbacks for making you resilient. Thank every enemy for teaching you about loyalty, every failure for teaching you about success, every ending for teaching you about new beginnings. This is not about being grateful for everything. This is about being grateful in everything, knowing that your response to what happens matters more than what happens. This is about understanding that gratitude is not just an emotion, it's a strategy, it's a way of life, it's the inner armor that makes you unbreakable. When gratitude becomes your default response to difficulty, when appreciation becomes your automatic reaction to adversity, when thanksgiving becomes your natural expression of strength, you become something rare and precious in this world. A person who cannot be defeated because they've learned to find victory in every circumstance. Let gratitude be your secret weapon, your hidden strength, your quiet power that turns every battle into a blessing and every warrior into a winner. Right now, in this very moment, you stand at the threshold of a choice that will define everything that follows. Behind you lies the old way, the need to explain, to seek approval, to announce every intention before it has time to take root. Ahead of you lies something different, something rare, something that most people will never understand because they're too busy making noise to hear the whisper of true power. You can feel it now, can't you? That quiet certainty settling into your bones. That understanding that you don't need to prove anything to anyone except the person staring back at you in the mirror. This is not the end of learning, this is the beginning of becoming. Every moment forward is an opportunity to practice this sacred art of silent strength. Picture yourself 6 months from now, moving through your days with the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly where they're going. No longer explaining your choices to people who wouldn't understand them anyway, no longer seeking permission for dreams that were always meant to be yours. Just moving, building, becoming with the steady rhythm of someone who has found their true power. The world around you will continue its desperate dance of noise and validation, but you'll move differently. Like deep water that shapes mountains without making a sound. Like roots that split stone through patient, invisible persistence. Like the dawn that doesn't announce its arrival but simply transforms everything it touches. If this resonates with something ancient and unshakable within you, then you're ready to walk this path with others who understand that true strength whispers while weakness shouts. Subscribe not to consume, but to continue deepening into the person you're becoming. Your silence is not empty space waiting to be filled. Your silence is power waiting to be unleashed, and the unleashing has already begun.